Hi friends, today in our class we are going to see about histology of cardiovascular system. So we are going to focus mainly on the circulation of the heart, the pulmonary as well as the systemic circulation. Okay, so let us start, and we should remember the main function of the heart first. So the main function of the heart will be pumping of the blood. Okay, and that's right. And also it transport the nutrients, it transport the hormones, enzymes. Okay, and then it also maintains the body temperature. It also comes under the respiratory system or connected to the heart, because the exchange of the blood is take place here. Hence I want to draw a lung here. Okay. And here there is a two venous system which is present. Okay. So now we are going to see the chambers of the heart first, from the basic thing. Okay. So the chambers of the heart are two atrium and two ventricle which is presenting in the heart. The two atriums are right atrium, left atrium. Two ventricles are left ventricle, right ventricle and left ventricle. There are two valves, two output valves and two input valves. The input valves are the valve which is present between the left atrium and the left ventricle is known as mitral valve or bicuspid valve. So the cusps, bicuspid means the cusp will be two, both sides like this. Okay, next. So here two valves, two cusps will be presented here, and the other valve will be tricuspid valve which is present between the right atrium and the right ventricle. Tricuspid valve. So the cusp which is present here is 1, 2 and 3. So like this. Okay. So these are those things, and there are two output valves. The valve which is present between the left ventricle and the aorta is known as aortic valve. Aortic valve. And the valve which is present between the right ventricle and the lung is known as pulmonary valve. Okay, and there are two venous systems, superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Okay, any doubts in this? So let us know there are four chambers, two on right atrium and left atrium, right ventricle and left ventricle. Okay, and there are two input valves and two output valves. The input valves are mitral or bicuspid valve, tricuspid valve which is present between the right atrium and the right ventricle, the mitral valve which is present between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay, and there are two output valves, the aortic valve which is present between the left ventricle and the aorta, the pulmonary valve which is present between the right ventricle and the lungs. Okay, so let us draw one more time, okay, for your understanding. So think it of and say this: left atrium, left ventricle, aorta. Okay, next, right atrium, right ventricle, here we have lung or two beautiful lungs which is present in our body, and there are valves present between the left atrium and the left ventricle is mitral or bicuspid valve, and the valve which is present between the right atrium and right ventricle is a tricuspid valve. They are the input valves. And the valve which is present between the left ventricle and the aorta will be the aortic valve, and the valve which is present between the right ventricle and the lung will be the pulmonary valve. Okay, and the two venous cables, venous systems which is present here is superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So this is the chambers, valves, all together we have seen here. Now we are going to see about the circulation, how the blood gets circulated in the heart, how the blood pumps, what are the things happens, what are the valves opens and closes. These things we have to check now. Okay. So what I have told you, there are two venous connections, superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So the deoxygenated blood which is from the lower extremities like hip, leg, feet. So these in this area the deoxygenated blood will be present, will be taken to the inferior vena cava, taken by the inferior vena cava, and from the upper extremities like head, face, neck, from this region the deoxygenated blood will be collected through the superior vena cava. So the blood is collected here from the both way, the deoxygenated blood, remember well, and the deoxygenated blood from the superior and inferior vena cava will enter the right atrium, and when the right atrium contracts through the tricuspid valve, it reaches the right ventricle. When the right ventricle contracts, the blood from the right ventricle, it reaches the pulmonary valve. Through the pulmonary valve, it reaches the pulmonary lungs. And in the lungs, so from the right side are fully contained with deoxygenated blood, and the deoxygenated blood reaches the lung. After suddenly the deoxygenated blood reaches the lung starts its function. It wants to oxygenate the deoxygenated blood. So the oxygenated blood, oxygenation take place, carbon dioxide will be released. You know that. Okay. So the oxygenated blood here is collected through the pulmonary vein. Okay. The pulmonary vein attaches to the left atrium. The pulmonary artery collects the deoxygenated blood, and the pulmonary vein here collects the oxygenated blood. You know, there are two things which interchanging here. Normally the arteries will collect the oxygenated blood and veins will collect the deoxygenated blood. But in two arteries and two veins, it is interchanged. One is pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein, and another will be on the umbilical artery and umbilical vein, which connects the womb of the fetus and the mother. Okay. So the pulmonary artery will collect the deoxygenated blood, and pulmonary vein will collect the oxygenated blood. So the oxygenated blood here, it is collected through the pulmonary vein and it reaches the left atrium. When the left atrium contracts through the mitral or bicuspid valve, it reaches the left ventricle. See, all these chambers are important, but left ventricle is more important because the pressure in the left ventricle will be more than other chambers. Okay, because it's going to release the blood, it's going to flow the blood to all parts of the body. Okay, so the left ventricle has more pressure than the other chambers. Okay, so after reaching the left ventricle contracts, and the left ventricle gives the blood to the aorta through aortic valve. after reaching the aorta, what happens? The blood will be distributed to all those tissues, cells and all those kinds. See, assume this is a tissue. Let's suppose this is a tissue. So when the oxygenated blood comes, we know the tissue was during exercise, and see, carbon dioxide is taken from the tissue. Just remember that. Okay, so carbon dioxide and metabolic products, okay, will be on the tissues which is taken. Okay, the oxygenated blood will be collected here, and the deoxygenated blood will be taken by the venous system. And the venous, it will connect the venous deoxygenated carbon dioxide. The waste metabolism will be collected by the inferior vena cava. Another, the circulation will be goes on like this. The circulation will be presenting in the lungs, which is known as pulmonary circulation. Okay. Now the right ventricle will be pumped the blood to the lung for oxygenation. So this is known as pulmonary circulation. The circulation which is take place in the lung is known as pulmonary circulation. And the circulation, overall circulation, take place in the heart is known as systemic circulation. Understand? And this is what the histology of heart, main topics, as we are going to detailed about the heart as well as some diseases and the diseases caused in cardiovascular system. We should know the basic thing of cardiovascular system, that is the pumping and circulation of the heart. Okay, so this was the pumping and circulation of the heart. There are two circulation, pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. Any doubts? Put on comment box and I will be seeing on the next video. Until then, it's been Nandu. Take care, be safe and bye.